Hello guys, Tap18 here. Welcome back to this pre-duel channel. It's time for a debunk, one that I promised a very, very long time ago. SethTheProgrammer, to get into the hype behind Goku's new form, or as we now know it, Ultra Instinct, he did a battle between Goku and the Flash with his friend the Cybercuck. So on Goku's end, he had to speculate because this video was made in August of 2017, and Ultra Instinct Omen didn't arrive until October. Not the best timing in hindsight, but Victory and I will be doing something similar soon, so what can I really say? Just keep in mind that Seth didn't know what Goku's new form was in the context of this video. Also know I don't disagree with his results, per se. I just noticed a ton of Flash misinformation. When I was first writing an outline for this video, I thought that's all it was, but going over it with Victory, it's blatantly wrong information. Not misleading, just wrong. Seth himself agrees that misinformation should be debunked. But now that we know what Ultra Instinct is, the speculation is even more glaring. But we won't hold that against them because Seth isn't a fourth dimensional being beyond the concept of time who could have seen this coming. Finally, for this video, I will be allowing Seth's video to play in its entirety, with the exception of things that don't matter, like his outro, so you can be sure that nothing is taken out of context. As always, a link to the original video will be down below. All the images used in this video will also be in a link down below, while the sources used will be annotated on the screen in the corner as always. Any other external links or information should not be mentioned explicitly in this video will be in the description box. All that being said, we could finally get into the debunk.
Using, of course, God Goku current. Not any hypothetical limit breaker Goku, although we can kind of talk about the possibility. But for the most part, Chuck is going to be talking about Flash in this video. I'll go over Goku, and we'll go over some of their hacks and counters to each other after we're done calculating their powers and talking about their consistencies, etc. So, Chuck, why don't you explain to the viewers how strong is the Flash?
So we'll keep this in mind. Nothing is particularly wrong here. Just know that the Cuck is supposed to want the Flash to win here and should be debating for him. So I consider this being done because he specifically didn't do his job. Or at least I feel like he did.
Okay, so essentially, there's two versions of the Flash. Barry Allen, who's basically from the New 52 continuity, and of course Wally West from the post-Christ continuity.
Only 9 seconds and then we have another problem. Though I'll admit this may be a nitpick. I know he didn't mean it, but there are 4 main versions of the Flash, not 2. Those being Jay, Barry, Wally, and Bart in the pre-52 timeline. People usually don't count Bart because his time as the Flash was so short. I think he meant there are 2 main versions of the Flash that we see outside the comics, that being Barry Allen and Wally West, which would be true, but he also mentioned continuity, so it's hard to tell if it's just bad phrasing or if he legitimately doesn't know what he's talking.
And essentially, Barry is stated to, be superior to Wally, so we can basically use his feats to scale off of him. I mean, if we're going to scale Goku from other people, why can't we scale the Flash from, of course, another Flash? Alright,
so one of my major problems with this video is the assertion that Barry is faster than Wally. This is a big debate within the Flash fandom. You can't be a member of it and not have heard of this debate. So for them to go over it so casually in 11 seconds with an argument from authority fallacy is laughable to me. I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this because, again, this is a huge debate. But I'm going to just flat out say I believe in the pre-52 timeline, Wally is much, much faster than Barry. And that scaling Barry to Wally is a massive highball on Barry's part. For this first point, your appeal to authority is weak. I don't know which writer that is, and you don't put it in the description box. Even when you discuss in the comment section, you fail to mention which writer it is. So how do I know he's credible to make such a huge assertion? Even people who think Barry's faster know he mostly lacks the feats. You state in the comment section that some authors say Barry is faster. So what? Later in the video, you say that feats are better than statements, and feats say Wally wins the race before Barry Allen even realizes it started. But that's not mentioning the fact that the statement in and of itself is a concession. By admitting some authors, the correct term being writers, say that Barry is faster, you must concede that there are writers that say Wally is faster as well. Barry being generally more experienced is also debatable, considering the number of years Wally was able to operate as the Flash on his own while Barry was dead. And for those who don't know the Flash, this video operates under the assumption that Barry knows a lot about the Speed Force when Barry didn't even know it existed when he died. He only learned about it when he came back to life and only gained a moderate understanding of it during the New 52. But I'll explain all that in more detail later. Finally, as you mentioned in your comment and the writer's statement, you claim Barry understands the science behind his abilities. Now, this is a problem with DC as a whole, but I'll drop some quick flash facts for you. The Speed Force was invented during the Mark Waid era of The Flash, introduced after Barry's death, and retconned as the source of their amazing abilities. We are given two sides to the Speed Force, science and spiritualism, represented by Johnny Quick and Max Mercury, respectively. Wally learned a lot about the Speed Force from the two and Savitar. Actual cool Savitar, not Barry in a stupid suit. Anyway, this led to him becoming the most proficient in the use of the Speed Force by far. And that title is still his, as evidenced by Barry admitting to Wally that he still doesn't remember all the amazing things the Speed Force can do. So his knowledge is practically still lacking. When Jeff Johns brought Barry back, the only way to make him a relevant Flash, in comparison to Wally, was to remove him from the universe entirely, and all the interesting history that went with it, including everything we learned the Speed Force could do. Barry began using science to try to explain the Speed Force. Let's ignore that it's an extra-dimensional force outside the multiverse itself that doesn't obey the laws of physics to begin with. But if we did that, then Barry Allen would lose his one character trait. So, it is what it is. Then Wally returns, and DC recycles the old conflict of Max and Johnny with Wally and Barry. Barry understanding the science doesn't make him faster. When Wally knows the Speed Force spiritually, which has been shown to be a superior method, at minimum, it's an equal stance. This is not to mention the fact that Wally, in continuity, learned about the science behind his speed from Barry. After all, the entire reason Wally was able to develop the infinite mass punch was through direction given him by Barry. He understands physics to a great degree, it just isn't his profession. If you want to argue that Barry understands the science of the Speed Force itself, see my earlier point about how little that actually means in this scenario. The Speed Force is about connection more than understanding. Now it's time to focus on the elephant in the room. While this video is nearly a year old, we do have an event coming next month which completely addresses this very question. The aforementioned event is called Flash War. Now that Wally West is back, he questions Barry Allen's role as the Flash. The event is being made for obvious reasons. It's a great tie-in, it answers a question Flash fans argue about constantly, it's a great time to return classic Wally West era characters like Hunter Zolomon, etc. But I want you all to keep in mind that this recent event, set in current continuity, is recent. They attempted to scale Barry above Wally using feats they showed in the preview continuity. While DC can retcon as much as they want now to put Barry anywhere near Wally, I'll only be addressing the feats beforehand that prove they're nowhere close. I'll discuss DC Rebirth in a later video, but for now, let's discuss feats. Now, Wally West first becomes the Flash. He can only run at the speed of sound. His speed is limited. Flash fans know this is Wally West's mental block, one that causes his speed to wax and wane for years as the Flash. This is why he can only run at the speed of sound at times, and at other times he can outrun Superman. However, when he fights Professor Zoom, he accepts that his waning abilities were due to his desire to not surpass Barry. He didn't want to outshine Barry's legacy and usurp it. But during the fight with Zoom, they're equals. Keep in mind, Professor Zoom and Barry are stated to be equals constantly and consistently. It was obvious when Reverse Flash was first introduced, and repeated again during the modern era. So it's an undisputed fact that Eobard Thawne and Barry Allen are equals. So obviously, Wally being an equal to Eobard would now put Wally and Barry as equals. Now, let's keep digging. After Wally defeats Thawne, he tricks him into traveling into the future to chase him. Only Wally doesn't actually travel into the future. He moves so fast that Thawne doesn't see him hide. Now, Thawne was staring right at him, so he had to be faster than Thawne to perform this feat. But I'm a nice guy, and will say that Eobard's perceptions are damaged by the beating Wally gave him, which I don't think is too unfair to state. So Wally remains the equal of his late uncle until the arrival of Bart Allen, who is stated to be Wally's equal. During the 0 Hour event, Wally runs beyond any speed previously achieved, what Kadabra called ultimate speed, causing him to break the time barrier. He manages to make it back, but runs into the consistent problem of the Speed Force attempting to bring him inside. When he returns, he states that he's the fastest person alive by a hair, alluding that he's surpassed Bart, which in turn means he surpassed Barry. When he finally manages to control his trips to the Speed Force and return permanently, he begins what he deems as an evolution. He's getting faster. Max confirms that Wally is the fastest man to ever live as a result. This is the first time Wally was stated to be faster than Barry Allen by someone other than himself. After Wally's boost in speed, he only continues to improve until his continuity is taken away from him, only furthering the gap between himself and Barry. And for more external proof, when Green Arrow goes to heaven, Barry states that Wally surpassed him, and Martian Manhunter, when fighting Wally, also states that he surpassed Barry. And for the icing on the cake, Wally defeats Zoom in a picosecond. The guy who is an equal to Barry, Wally defeats in a picosecond. Wally is much faster than Barry, period. I have a ton more feats to prove this, but I'll save it for my Flash War discussion video. Plus, you guys haven't even gotten that far into yours. But for now, let's continue.
We're going to talk about his speed. Flash, he's actually faster than us in travel, which means that he would be faster than us in transmission if you think about it. And as well, he was able to, keep up with Superman in many battles, as well with, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, all these people that are massively faster than light.
I'd like to bring up that Superman has feats, like, even though he was, like, drained and sick, he crossed, like, galaxies and within, like, 60 days. And he's, like, confirmed over billions, possibly trillions times the speed of light easily, even lowballing. So that is something that would correlate to the Flash.
The Essential Superman Encyclopedia states that both Earth 1 and Earth 2 Flash were both able to surpass the speed of Superman. So, I mean, that's clearly massively faster than light speeds right there. Yep. And then one of Flash's most famous feats is actually when he was able to save, like, hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, from a nuke going off. Now, this is kind of weird because the author basically what the author says within the text is that, he's basically going, barely the speed of light, even though by calculations it should easily be faster than that, because it would be, like, pretty much impossible for him to save that many people in such a short time frame, right? But, even if you don't want to use that feat, you can still use, like, the scaling from Superman, and of course, when he's able to keep up in combat with them.
Well, like, that's obviously author stupidity, because obviously the author didn't even think that through very well, or try to calculate what the feat was going to be. And regardless, feats greater than statements infinitely. That's just a fact. Feats are always greater than any statement out there. So the feat does remain that would be much faster than light, no matter what the author said about it, to be honest. I mean, the author was obviously just lowballing because he didn't know anyway. So,
to give you guys an example about how fast Wally is, he was actually able to, like, basically outrun death through, like, at the end of space and time, basically to the end of the universe where death, like, the black rays are pretty much fucking dissolved to nothing. Yeah. So, I mean, that proves right there that the Flash is, fourth dimensional. He's fucking fast as fuck, boy.
And there's that was cringy, but anyway, the DC universe, some people even, like, have hypothesis that it's like 3,000 times bigger than our actual universe, because, like, the size of the DC universe is actually much larger. Although for the sake of this video, we're just going to say that it's just a normal universe, because fourth dimensional does, is the equivalent to infinite three-dimensional space anyway. So the size of the DC universe is kind of irrelevant if we're just going to say he's fourth dimensional regardless. So I thought I would just add that in.
Now that you guys have an idea about how fast the Flash is, now let's move on to his hacks-arinos. So Flash is able to phase through opponents, but he unfortunately needs to concentrate and basically distinguish what rate or speed he needs to vibrate. And, obviously this is going to take time, so you can't just spam and just immediately phase anyone. He's actually been countered by Supergirl and Wonder Stripper while trying to phase through them.
Wonder Stripper.
Stopping this again. That was Wally, not Barry. So it's actually Barry vibrating himself to prevent Supergirl from caving in his skull. He states that in the scan you show in your video. Seth seems to have a habit of debunking himself. Except, this is more his friend, so I guess Seth is on the clear for this one. But seriously, just read the scan. Barry's exact words: "If I hadn't vibrated at the last second, your knee would have been in my skull." He didn't have any trouble vibrating through Supergirl. In fact, he did it as a defense. In the next scan, on the next page, he vibrates Supergirl through the wall, and she doesn't even understand what's happening. The next scan is once again not Barry, it's Wally. And Wally isn't trying to vibrate through Wonder Woman's arm. He's running uncontrollably, and she tries to stop him by clotheslining him. She succeeds, but he's not even vibrating. Come on, guys.
So
yeah, like I remember Supergirl did knee him in the face even when he did start vibrating. And there are numerous instances where the Flash can't instantly phase through an object. Like, he has to obviously adjust himself to be able to vibrate through certain things, and he has to get used to it. So it does make sense that if Goku is on a relative speed or possibly greater power, that the Flash is going to have a very difficult time getting through him, especially since Goku's defenses are mainly key oriented, like key strengthening his body and his defenses. So it does make sense that the Flash would probably struggle to vibrate through Goku, at least instantaneously. It'd probably take him a bit. And if the Flash is just massively faster than Goku, of course he's just going to phase through him. But for the most part, it is looking like the no limits fallacy I always hear, that the Flash just has infinite attack potency because he can phase through people. It's like, yeah, dude, you see God over there, just phase right through him, dude. Just one shot and one above all.
Just phase right through
just
fucking
phase
the one
through
above
him,
all.
dude. Instantly. There's no limits to his power. No, that's bullshit. It's there's clear limits to Flash's phasing ability. I don't know why people wank it so hard. It's a little bit weird. It's kind of like people wanking Goku to be like have infinite speed because he broke through his time barrier.
No, he's not always plank speed.
Like, yeah,
that was terrible.
Yeah, whenever people wank their characters to have no limits, it's really edgy. But for what we've come over is that the Flash obviously needs time to learn how to vibrate through an opponent. Although if he is massively faster than Goku, like I said, yes, he can phase through Goku, but that's only if Goku lets him and if he can. So continuing on.
Mind bringing them up then? Evidence. Come on, Seth. Like I mentioned, evidence is needed to prove this. Flash's vibrations work by him moving so fast that his molecules can slip between the molecules of whatever he wants. Now, as far as limitations go, New 52 Barry Allen hasn't really shown that many. In the pre-52, Green Lantern constructs were difficult to vibrate through at times, but New 52 Barry did it casually. He also destroyed a magical monster by vibrating through it. He phased Supergirl, as I mentioned, and phased through Martian Manhunter, a character capable of phasing himself. The only time he's had trouble phasing was when he moved through the Fortress of Solitude, and that's because it was both an alien structure and actually crystals on a molecular level. So you could argue that he'd have trouble with Goku because he's an alien, and by DC logic, he would have a different vibrational frequency than everyone else in Barry's universe. The problem isn't your argument, it's your evidence. And again, the lack of knowledge is borderline appalling.
Steal their kinetic energy and their connection to the Speed Force that he can actually turn them into fucking statues, which he actually did to multiple speedsters and other like fighters that, you know.
Wally can steal speed. Jay Garrick can steal speed. Barry Allen cannot. I've said it once, I'll say it again. Any debater who tries to say that Barry Allen can steal speed knows nothing about Barry, and as a Flash fan, they have zero credibility. Zero. The only time Barry Allen can steal speed is in the most recent continuity of DC Rebirth. But more on this later. Wally has ever turned inertia into a statue. He does not do this as a standard when using the speed steal. Not to say he can't. Well, Barry still can't, but Wally wouldn't do this unless he was bloodlusted, like he was against Thad because he killed Bart.
He basically faced, and basically he has like this fucking room where a bunch of people are fucking frozen, which is pretty fucking crazy. But he hasn't really shown this against people that are, you know, like multi-universal like Goku is.
Way more powerful.
I mean,
and the other thing is that if they're fighting in like a neutral space, there's also the question is, does the Speed Force even like exist in their battle?
If there is no Speed Force, why would you do a death battle? Only Jay can run without the Speed Force. Barry's just a normal guy without. I could see someone making the argument that Barry could just generate the Speed Force wherever he is if he was outside of the DC multiverse. But to counter this, just mention the fact that Barry can be cut off from the Speed Force. This happened a few times in New 52, and it happened again in DC Rebirth. So theoretically, he could create it, but you just give it to him since they should be fighting in a neutral space to begin with.
Well, like, would the Speed Force like even be an effect towards Goku? Like, stealing his Speed Force, would that even matter since he never had it to begin with? That's something.
He steals kinetic energy, not Speed Force energy, with the Speed Steal. So Goku's lack of the Speed Force wouldn't matter, unless you want to argue that Superman and bullets have access to the Speed Force. But again, if either of you had a basic understanding of the Flash mythos, you know that Barry can't steal speed anyway. Ironically, unless it's from a Speed Force user whose cells haven't fully bonded with the Speed Force. Looking into it, this video came out on August 25th. Barry Allen stole speed for the first time on August 10th. Something tells me that someone did a quick Google search and doesn't actually understand the speed steal outside of Barry Allen's flawed method. Ain't that interesting?
To consider. So
when Barry actually fought against Professor Zoom, it was actually stated that it affected reality, you know, which I don't know how you can really calculate that, but you know, that's still pretty.
Are you letting Barry absorb the Speed Force for this fight? Because Doing so like he did in Flashpoint is the only way to replicate this.
Damn impressive, like just through their sheer speed and power, they were able to just, affect like, pretty much the New 52 continuity, the fucking reality. So, I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. And then speaking about Wally, he was actually able to break through Antimatter's armor, which means that, through his speed, he's actually able to, become so fast that he can actually, pretty much break through really, really strong fucking Antimatter had. And actually, we're going to talk about the Antimatter later on because he's going to be really important to talk about God Flash.
Again, Wally, not Barry.
But anyways, Seth is now going to talk about this Infinite Mass Punch, so get that started.
Yeah, the Infinite Mass Punch, it has some interesting statements about it. I know there's a lot of people that think that the Infinite Mass Punch has there's two settings for it here. There's either one that it's a white dwarf star level because it's stated to be that, or two that it has simply infinite attack potency because one of the authors actually did state that it does have infinite mass when you are punching with it. And this also is due to relativity in the series actually being applied. So, for example, when they hit the speed of light, their mass hits infinite, Einstein theorized. And this is also shown with Superman when he tackled the Shadow Moon and used the infinite mass punch as well. And then Batman's oh, he's trying so hard to hit the speed of light, and it's it seems like a low ball almost. For the sake of this, if we're highballing the Flash, it is possible that the infinite mass punch would possibly spike into the fourth dimension. In terms of an infinite 3D attack potency, and it would still be obviously below multi-universal plus beings, say the Anti-Monitor and stuff. And it's also shown that most of the time he does use the infinite mass punch that he's actually suppressing himself for some reason. So it's most likely.
Why are we taking such a high ball? The infinite mass punch has quantifiable feats. It can hurt Superman tier characters, so just determine the durability of those characters and then simply assign Barry that attack potency. I could also say that we never really saw Barry use the Infinite Mass Punch in New 52, but you two wouldn't even know if I was telling the truth about that right now because I'm not going to provide evidence. Isn't that infuriating? Welcome to a day in my shoes watching your video.
Way above White Dwarf Star level, especially if he's supposed to be taking on Superman and Darkseid and stuff like that. It just doesn't make any sense that you'd only be White Dwarf Star level, especially since these
that's all of them.
Yeah.
All of them are White Dwarf Star level.
Yeah, everyone's just White Dwarf Star. None of them are even solar system level in the whole comic. So yeah, it's definitely very clear it's above White Dwarf Star level and possibly hits infinite mass. I know a few authors actually stated it hit infinite mass. So yeah, we're just going to be going.
Well, considering the earlier appeal to authority, you should look, then take the author's word as God. No ifs, ands, buts, or nuance. I mean, a writer said that New 52 Barry Allen can't even run faster than light. But hey, that's inconvenient to your argument.
With that for the Infinite Mass Punch.
Okay, so essentially in Crisis of Infinite Earths, Antimatter was pretty much such a fucking powerful villain that he would destroy pretty much the majority of the DC multiverse, and pretty much only a couple of universes remained. Even Spectre and a bunch of these fucking cosmic entities had to fight him. They couldn't do shit. The Justice League was struggling against him. They couldn't do shit. But then here comes the Flash, just fucking breaks through his armor, which is pretty damn impressive. If the Antimatter is multiversal casually, and the Flash is able to break through him, then easily, Wally should easily be multi-universal.
It'd be nice if we had some Barry Allen feats in this video, in which Barry Allen's the Flash you're using.
The very minimum. And then, if you want to scale Barry off of that, then, of course, it could also be multi-universal. However, this will be a high ball. But, I mean, I'm not saying it's an outlier because, I mean, it clearly happened and it's clearly possible for him to do that. But it's not what he usually shows, if that makes any sense. He doesn't, just shit out that amount of power all the time.
Yeah.
So, but essentially, the fight is still pretty damn strong if you want to scale off of that feat.
If Flash really did take out the Anti-Monitor, or, he was actually able to contend with, a multiversal plus being, then this battle will in fact go to the Flash, undoubtedly. But it's more than likely that the Flash is not at that level, and that is obviously a very highballed Flash to be multiversal. There are it's kind of similar with Superman, where there's always these different continuities and different writers around him that think he has different powers and stuff like that. There's one writer who's the Flash can think, fight, move at the speed of light. There's some writers that think, oh no.
So now there's nuance in multiple writers. Lovely. Now as the scan shows, Wally didn't defeat Anti-Monitor, just destroy his armor. Still a great feat, of course. And one could even argue he did it via vibration. But there are problems with this, and they are as follows. This is Wally, not Barry. You don't even consider this argument. Wally's vibrational pattern is literally the opposite of Barry anyway. And you acknowledge yourself later that Anti-Monitor wasn't defeated. It just seems odd. Normally I wouldn't care, but this is just adding on to a list of flaws in the Flash knowledge of this video.
He can like reach the speed of light if he tries really hard, or there's some writers that are like, nah, the speed, like Flash is the fastest man alive. There's nobody faster than the Flash. So it's like, it's really hard to gauge. But if we're like highballing him to the utmost degree with the Anti-Monitor, then he would stomp. But I think like a normal Flash would definitely not be at that level. So without further ado, let's talk about Goku. Goku, man, what hasn't been said about Goku already? But
many times.
Just we say it all the time. I mean, but Goku obviously has the stereotypical feats where he fights Beerus. Those are obviously his best feats, but he does have some other things and scaling beyond that. So, for example, we should obviously talk about it. Goku obviously shakes the universe and is going to destroy it as a Super Saiyan God against Beerus. I've heard people try to nerf this, saying, "Oh, it's only because Beerus was there that the universe was threatened." But that doesn't even make any sense, because that would still mean Goku was half the force being affecting the universe, because Goku and Beerus were obviously exerting the same amount of power, or else Beerus would have overpowered Goku's punch. They wouldn't have just clashed in the middle. And it should also be noted that Goku did fully absorb Super Saiyan God by the end of that fight.
The first scan is from the films, damn it. I really get tired of people using this to scale Goku in the Dragon Ball Super anime or manga. But why should we demand better?
His base form, actually, it turned all of Super Saiyan God into his base normal ki that he could use. And he could actually step.
This isn't true for the anime or manga once again. This flat out didn't happen in the manga. In the anime, they specifically state it's his Super Saiyan state that retains the power, not his base. There are counters to this, but you didn't mention them, and I mentioned I don't power scale the anime, if I can help.
Back on Super Saiyan God energy on top of that. And of course, we know that Goku fought like Hit with Kaioken times 10 as a Super Saiyan Blue, and then after the Goku Black arc, he was able to fight Hit as just a normal Super Saiyan Blue. So you have Goku getting much exponentially more powerful as the series goes on. Some people will even say that base Goku times 400 for Super Saiyan 3 still isn't even Super Saiyan Blue level. And then times 10 for that could be 4,000. And then you could say that current Goku is easily stronger than that even. So you could obviously imply that Goku is possibly low multiversal, which is the equivalent of destroying 1,000 plus 4D universes. So if that's the case, then Goku would in fact spike up to low multiversal. Now, we're not talking about complex multiversal like the Anti-Monitor would be. That'd be absurd wank. This is obviously only assuming that the Dragon Ball universe is a standard fourth dimensional universe, and that by scaling he'd be able to destroy thousands via attack potency. Obviously, he doesn't have the range to accomplish a feat like that, or else Zeno wouldn't scare the fuck out of him by threatening the same thing. So that is something to consider. Speed-wise, it's a little bit more complicated. How about you talk about something for speed?
Okay, so people like obviously try to downplay, Dragon Ball to like the absolute like worst extent, from the newest episode, that states that, it's Dispo surpassed the speed of light, even though.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, that's
here, even though okay, none of that even says that he wasn't the speed of light, and he says that he surpassed it through like repeated battles, meaning that over time as he was fighting, he was, he surpassed the speed of light. Like same case with Goku, like he was basically like, training to dodge lightning and shit, and then he was able to surpass the speed of light by the end of that, right?
Well, by the
by
the time the Saiyan saga rolled around, Goku was already the speed of light due to at least beam scaling by Piccolo. Piccolo blew up the moon in 4 seconds, and obviously Goku is way more than 4 times that, at least as a fucking Super Saiyan and Namek. We've actually confirmed he's thousands of times faster than that, but still, his best speed feats would be around as a god, regardless. So I think it is something to talk about though with Dispo, because for some reason people are writing that Dispo cock about the light speed statement, even though they're like comparing. He's even surpassed the speed of sound and light. Like sound and light are not anywhere near the same speed. I don't know why they're being compared at all.
Why is it so impressive, anyways, dude?
Yeah, so sound is like the speed of a bullet, dude. Like
which Goku was dodging.
That's literally early Dragon Ball level. So I don't know why they're being compared.
You can actually directly scale like Beerus, to Goku, because in one of the early Dragon Ball Super episodes, Whis actually, was getting food for him. I believe in another star system. We actually see him fly out of like their little planet or whatever, and Beerus basically said, "Hey, you bitch, bring me my food in 3 minutes or whatever, right?"
Yeah.
And then Beerus grew impatient. And he fucking flew directly to where Whis was with his staff, which can basically travel. Like actually stated that Earth was on the end of the fucking universe, right? And they were traveling across and back.
Yeah.
And then fly there just to get some fucking food. And then he's fighting against Goku. I've seen some people argue that, but Beerus isn't gonna use his more ki against Goku. Like, what the fuck, dude? Okay, so he's gonna use less ki to fight Goku. The guy's been waiting decades to fight, but he's gonna use more ki to get food. Yeah, that makes perfect fucking sense. Either way, that's still massively faster than light. And of course, we even have other feats from the fucking manga and the anime, where Goku fights and keeps up with Kid Buu, who basically stated to destroy galaxies over several years. Even if you want to downplay the fuck out of it and say it took him hundreds of thousands of years, that'd still be massively faster than light, dude. So I mean, there's no reason to downplay Goku.
Yeah. As far as we know, though, it's very apparent that Goku's blasts and beams and like shockwaves do cross the universe almost instantaneously. Like when he's fighting Beerus, his battle was seen almost instantly across the universe. Like it was like literally the battle was so bright and powerful that it was seen. It was completely blinding all the Kai on the Supreme Kai planet, which is outside of the universe, and it was shaking their planet. So it's very clear that the battle was, of course, of universal proportions, and that the battle was exceeding speeds required to travel across the universe almost instantaneously. But to lowball, a lot of people do put him at like the quadrillions to septillions of times faster than the speed of light range. Although a lot of people have simply said that at this rate, he's just hit fourth dimensional because, of course, it's stated that Beerus and Goku are going to annihilate the universe, and which annihilate means reduced to non-existence, meaning they're going to reduce the fourth dimensional time stream of the universe to non-existence, which would be fourth dimensional. And of course, you have characters like Zamasu fuse with the universe, and then Goku's like, yeah, if I had a sensu bean, I could fucking obliterate this guy, even though he's coming through different timelines and is fused with the universe itself, including time. And you have characters like Goku Black who are splitting open universes and controlling it with his own energies and stuff like that. There's just a lot of different things that imply fourth dimensional for Goku. And that's why I think this battle is actually very interesting, because Goku and the Flash both kind of hit that plateau that I was talking about in one of my earlier videos.
I would actually like to discuss that Goku does have counters to hacks. I mean, obviously he was able to counter like Hit's time skip, and he was able to break dimensions just by powering up, which is pretty interesting. And then of course, this feat that many people get fucking mad over is that he was basically tanking the raw power of the Hakai energy, then fucking die from it instantly.
Which has astral offense, which is interesting. Right? It can even destroy ghosts and shit, meaning Goku has soul resistance. So that is a very interesting ability.
Yeah, and he did that in base form, of course.
And of course, in the manga, he also has the Hakai himself. And it brings up into question.
I just let that play for a while. Hope you guys liked my little comments. The Hakai has been shown since the end of DBS to be strength related. It's like all DB feats and hacks in the verse. Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta could overpower Tobo's Hakai. The only reason Goku and Frieza were able to survive was again due to strength. And manga Goku's Hakai can only be done with him firing all of his Super Saiyan Blue power at once. It's not the same as energy of destruction. Again, please use one version of Goku. You're screw attacking it up in here.
Does Flash have a defense against that? We don't really know. Although, as we know, the Hakai only really seems to work on opponents that are weaker than it anyway. But
so you did know that. Good. You truly are the greatest DBS debater on YouTube.
There's also that astral argument as well. Like, even if he is weaker, is his soul going to be able to resist it? Does it only affect the body and obliterate the soul along with it? That's another question to bring up.
Okay, so the thing is, the Flash has shown some resistance to soul manipulation, but soul manipulation is not the same thing as countering soul destruction.
Right.
So logically, they're not the same kind of hacks resistance, but you could imply that Flash has at least some defense to it.
Right.
But I mean, Flash hasn't shown anything actually regarding countering that, but Goku has. So you could say that if Goku is getting countered by the Flash, or he's getting shit on, he could just use the Hakai and finish the fight. But I would say, if you're using Barry, like regular Barry, you're not using the high ball from Wally, then Goku should easily defeat him. But if you want to use like his best feats, then Goku will definitely have a hard time.
Explain your reasoning why he would beat normal Barry.
Because Barry hasn't.
I'm not opposed to the Flash having erasure existence. Just saying that in this particular instance, the only resistance is due to strength and would not apply outside the verse, where it would be possible for erasure to bypass durability. As I explained, Goku's Hakai isn't the same as the Hakai ships. In fact, using it would be bad for Goku. Barry would be able to dodge it, and then Goku will literally be out of ki. Easy win. Yet you're about to explain why Barry loses.
Shown like any like multi-universe levels of attack potency like Wally has. And
Right.
Of course, I mean, you really can calculate like his fight against Professor Zoom. They affected reality. I mean, can we really calculate that?
You can't calculate.
You mean Barry with the Speed Force absorbed had a fight that affected reality. Completely different from Barry Allen doing it without an amp. But to my knowledge, you're using normal Barry despite not actually confirming which continuity of Barry you're even using. As for calculations, you could place it close to Superboy Prime's retcon punches. The feats are pretty similar. Barry did cause a crisis after all. With help from Pandora, but it is what it is.
Bending space or affecting reality. This is shown it. Like, it's like saying that Janemba affected reality or that Superman could tear space. It's like, it's not really something that can be calculated because we don't even know how it works. I mean, it's obviously like a fictional ability that with no explanation. So,
and not to mention Gotenks and Super Boo were pretty much like, basically tearing through, dimensions, just by shouting. Does that mean they're universal or what? I mean, clearly not, but
yeah. There's some different things when it comes to warping space and time. It's a completely different concept to destroying it per se. I don't think it really equates to infinite attack potency, but anyway, continue.
Yeah, but as I said, if you want to highball from Wally, against his feat with the anti-monitor, then you could imply that Barry does have multi-universe levels of attack potency. But as we said, of course, that's a highball. But anyways, now we're going to get into...
anti-monitor Flash would probably destroy.
Yes, I would say that, if you want to use a highball Wally Barry fucking combo, then yes, then he would probably win. Unless Goku is a Kai, so yes.
Although that's the question also comes into the play of can Goku even touch that Flash? So probably not. And I mean, as you said earlier in the video, another question I wanted to talk about is can Goku even touch the Flash? Because you were arguing that the Flash instantaneously appeared to the end of the universe almost. Well, not instantaneously, but ran to the end of possibly this infinite universe to outrace fucking death, and can run faster than instantaneous. So what's your opinion on that?
Well, yes, Wally West can do that. But again, you haven't proven that Barry even scales to Wally. But then again, you haven't even declared which version of Barry Allen you're using. I'm just using DC Rebirth Barry because that's the main continuity one, and the one who used to be the God of Death, so the most relevant to the title of your video. Because Chuck the Cuck is doing such a poor job of defending Barry, I'll do it. Barry is faster than Hal, who has quintillion times the speed of light feats. Barry is also faster than Superman, who again has feats on the level of sextillion times faster than light. Goku is quadrillion times faster than light, by your calculations, so he definitely wouldn't see Barry coming. But I think that was just your Super Saiyan God calc, and not your blue calc. Watching your blue video, you cross-reference the anime and the manga again to determine a feat, which we all know I don't mess with. I'm not sure how fast Goku is in the Super anime, so I'll have to scale that some other time. If anyone has a logical feat, put it in the comment section and I'll favor your comment, because I'm really curious. Back to Barry, he has plenty of speed feats of his own as my point, and he has his own scaling. There's no need to rely on Wally West feats because A, he doesn't scale to Wally West, and B, he doesn't even exist in the same continuity as Wally West, at least until now. If we highball Barry to be equal to Wally, it's not even close. And to explain why we'd even entertain the idea of highballing Barry, you could argue that post-Speed Force Barry in the pre-52 rivaled Wally, as during a run against Darkseid, Barry told Wally to run all out and Barry kept up. But this is assuming Wally listened and didn't hold back for Barry's sake.
Well, I mean, definitely like Flash's speed does, I guess depend on how much of the Speed Force is connected into. And
Barry generates the Speed Force. He never really has a need to access more. He is the access.
And obviously, when he's fighting against Superman and stuff like that, if he's on par with them, then easily massively faster in light, as you said, like with the feat with Superman crossing across the universe. And then, if you basically put on top of that he can just basically exist without, a fucking fourth dimensional space, there's a fucking void. And then, if he can travel faster in instant travel, then, clearly he definitely has an advantage over Goku in that regards. But speed isn't always everything. Obviously,
there's also the argument that Goku might also have insane speed on par with that if you calculate the fact that their battle was obviously universal in scale almost instantaneously. Right. And of course he gets way stronger than that, and like I said, it's possible that he hit the fourth dimension himself, which would of course be infinite three-dimensional travel, but that's a different argument.
I thought Goku didn't hit that speed earlier. I thought you weren't wanking
Goku to be like have infinite speed because he broke through his time barrier.
No, he's not always Planck speed. Like, yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, whenever people wank their characters to have no limits, it's really edgy. Regardless, highballed Flash stomps. Normal Flash would probably get beaten. Now let's talk about God of Death Flash, which is basically Flash's God.
6 minutes left. Glad we finally got to this part of the video.
Which is probably more fair lore-wise to fight Goku's God form. So why don't you talk about God Flash? We'll wrap this up.
Okay, so I actually did a power skill on God Flash like several months ago, but to give you guys a starter on how strong this motherfucker is, let's get down and dirty with Anti-Monitor. So essentially, as I said, he was basically able to wipe out the majority of the DC multiverse, and a guide says, as stated, in his original incarnation, the Anti-Monitor looked different, but was just as powerful as his reincarnated form after the Flashpoint event, meaning that the Anti-Monitor from New 52 or the Darkseid War is basically just as strong as his Crisis on Infinite Earth's counterpart, which means he's already fucking multiversal in base form.
That's the base. That's base Anti-Monitor, but yeah.
And then he feeds on more universes, and then he becomes even amped after that. He fights against Darkseid. They're both getting, basically fighting each other. Here comes the Flash, merging with fucking Death, and one-shots Darkseid. Someone who was on par with Anti-Monitor, stronger than base. Who's already multiversal. Yeah. Literally one-shot him. So, I mean, that should honestly just... I should tell you how strong this motherfucker is.
I don't want to be the guy to say this, but God of Death Flash probably solos Dragon Ball Super. Like... He like unironically probably does. I mean, not even Zeno is 5D. I mean, because there's multiple Zenos, so he's obviously bound by time. And God of Death Flash would fucking destroy him. Now there are some Dragon Ball characters that might be on that level, like Xenoverse characters, which fucking scale way differently. But I don't want to get into that. All right, now that we've kind of talked about who wins between like the normal Flash and say Goku, let's talk about a hypothetical limit-breaking form. Do you think, in your opinion, that a hypothetical limit-breaking Goku could defeat a highballed Flash? Now, the limit-breaker Goku, going by lore, we haven't actually seen it yet. It'll come out soon eventually. But apparently, it might be God of Destruction level. So in your opinion, what do you think will happen with that?
Well, like, obviously, we have people like Vegito, who's basically strong enough to go up against, like, Merge Damasu, and then, if you go by the manga, it could be implied that they could be stronger than Beerus.
Yes, that's the manga.
And Beerus, like, can just casually nullify universal levels of energy while, just fucking casually, like, fucking using, like, I don't know, some bullshit percent of his power.
Not even 1%. Yeah.
And then...
why does it matter if Beerus can nullify energy? No one else in Dragon Ball can do that. Did you think Ultra Instinct Goku would gain this power? Well, he didn't, so that's an irrelevant point.
And if Goku's on that level, if not beyond that, then, I mean, I honestly, due to all that raw power that he has, he should be able to basically close the gap between him and, a highballed Flash. Okay, so yes, Anti-Monitor would be like, multiversal. But obviously, if you want to say that Flash was able to break through his armor, of course he didn't defeat him or, actually kill him or anything. Then you could say he's multi-universal, up to low multiversal. But as we argued, even if we use like a regular Goku with scaling and all those like, amps that he's gone over the, years that this series has been out, then, if he's already, low multiversal and highballing and then he gets another amp on top of that, then he should be able to close the gap with that.
Well, the problem is that multiversal plus, which the Anti-Monitor should be, if I'm hearing you right, is the ability to destroy or create an infinite amount of fourth dimensional universes. It's kind of like the next level past fourth dimensional compared to 3D. And I don't see Goku, if he is fourth dimensional, having like a 400 to possibly whatever fucking amount multiplier from Vegito. Like, if we apply that Vegito as a Super Saiyan Blue is just like Beerus level, and that Goku's just going to kind of hit that level with his new form, I don't see it really being enough to close that plateau, that dimensional plateau. But what you're implying is that the Flash still isn't on that level, which I may or may not disagree with, because the Flash did crack his armor, but I understand where you're coming from, so...
Now, I already know that a lot of people are going to be trying to lowball Goku. They're going to say, oh, like, he got him by a laser XD, right? Fucking edgy, fucking edgelords or whatever the fuck.
He also got him by a rock, low.
And then people are going to say, oh, if Goku's universal, then why when he's fighting, like, you know, Hid or fucking Beerus the second time, or Frieza, why did they only, like, destroy craters and shit? They're only mound level. Well, the thing is, there's this thing called area of effect and key control. Key control is an actual... right? Key control is an actual, like, term, like, even Toriyama himself used. It's not some bullshit term we came up with. Area of effect isn't some shit we came up with. It's in the series, and it's in the comics as well. If you want to lowball and say that Goku is universal because, you know, he's destroyed fucking tile fighting Hit, you know, even though he's clearly much stronger than Super Saiyan God Goku when he fought Beerus. I mean, remember when we were talking about God of Death Flash? I mean, before that, Darkseid and Anti-Mar were fighting. They didn't even destroy a fucking city. They're only city level or what, dude? Area of effect clearly doesn't exist, right? I mean, come on. These guys are beyond universal, but they don't destroy a city. Get the fuck out of here.
Darkseid got mugged by normal people. He's clearly like Switchblade level, dude.
So, you know, Goku getting hurt by a laser because he dropped his guard. And of course, even in the Flash has the lowball feat. You know, like if you want to lowball him, where he got stabbed by fucking Deathstroke one time, who's basically someone that Batman has fucking fought before.
Fucking human. So yeah, these low balls don't work, and we also know that Goku is obviously off guard, and we don't use absurd low ends like that anyway. It's not logical for a versus battle unless you're being a fantard. So, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tell us what you think down below. We've been thinking about this for a while. I've consulted a lot of different people about it. I talked to one guy who was like lowballing the fuck out of Flash, and I talked to one guy that was just like wanking the fuck out of him. So I kind of tried to put it in the middle a little bit. I'm trying not to take sides on it. Like I said, with comic book characters, you said this too before, there's just so variables. Like there's so many variables with them. Like if you try to scale their power progression, it's always up and down, whereas Dragon Ball's always been like consistently up.
Who did you ask? Alright, now this video is over. The reason I made this debunk was because of the terrible, terrible Flash misinformation. They somehow managed to link Barry to be above Wally, while downplaying Barry by not allowing his speed to stand on its own. Goku was pure speculation due to Ultra Instinct not appearing at the time. That being said, I'll actually answer the question they posed in this video. So, as usual, I will set up strict versions of the characters that we'll be using. Unlike them, I'll use Manga Goku strictly, because that's what I prefer doing due to the anime being too inconsistent. However, I do want to include Ultra Instinct with as little speculation as possible, which means using the anime. So for my sake, I'll use the scaling I did for Goku during the Goku Black arc. Goku is supposed to be rusty in the Tournament of Power anyway. And yes, I understand that being rusty does not mean he's particularly weaker. But I think with the dive and skills, you could argue that it's definitely led to a decline in his strength as well, especially if he's been farming. And to be fair to Seth and Cook's video, I'll do normal Flash versus Goku, then I'll do what y'all came for, Ultra Instinct. Now I really don't like the New 52 version of Barry Allen for a few reasons, but he's the Flash who became the Black Racer. So he's who we'll use. Let's go over base stats first. Goku in his normal state can achieve Super Saiyan Blue and then Kaioken times 20 on top of that. Goku is... You know what? Scratch that. You came for Ultra Instinct versus the God of Death, so you'll get it. I'll be using my scaling for the Goku Black arc Anime Goku because the Tournament of Power is inconsistent. I'll use New 52/DC Rebirth Barry for his base. Now in Ultra Instinct, Goku has power far greater than his Kaioken times 24. His Ultra Instinct armored form, I'd say, is bare minimum 2 times strong, with completed UI being maybe 2 times stronger than that, for a total of 80 times stronger than Super Saiyan Blue. And he has the added ability of being able to move without thinking. he retains all of his techniques. And I know that may not be like a whole lot I'm saying for Goku, but again, keep in mind that I cannot scale Dragon Ball Super anime. I don't really think anyone can. And I think you'll find in a few seconds that it doesn't really matter. But I know it may sound like I'm underselling Goku here, but he does have a lot of remarkable abilities, incredible attack potency, and a myriad of different skills that I can't exactly lay out right. Barry, as the God of Death, is bonded with the Black Racer, the living embodiment of death. In this state, Barry Allen becomes immortal due to him being an aspect of death. He can fly, and most deadly of all, he has a fatal touch. This gives him the ability to kill anyone he comes into contact with. And again, they slept on Barry, so I'll mention some of the feats he has that they neglected to mention. He can draw his opponents into the Speed Force with his thoughts. This is known as the Speed Mind, which also allows him to calculate millions of scenarios in seconds. Inside the Speed Force, he is king, and can manipulate a multiversal-sized dimension of pure energy. Barry also has time manipulation, having the ability to push it forward. He can also drag things in his slipstream as he runs. He has electrokinesis. He can run on air. All that said, who wins? I have to go with Flash. The fatal touch affecting a multiversal being definitely means it would affect Goku. This fight is literally over when he touches him. Now, Goku can move without thinking, but even in his completed Ultra Instinct form, he's been tagged. Goku isn't untouchable. He can simply move without thinking about it beforehand. Would it be this simple? Yes and no. Honestly, I was considering giving it to Goku, only because New 52/Rebirth Barry Allen isn't a very consistent character. He's been stated/shown a few times to have trouble moving faster than light, and other times he's much faster. Obviously, if he isn't even faster than light, he wouldn't stand a chance against Goku, aside from the Black Racer entity giving Barry heightened strength and durability. To be fair, God of Death Flash only has one appearance and it isn't contradicted. Not to mention it's possible Black Racer amped Barry, assuming Barry isn't already faster than light, because Darkseid and Anti-Monitor retain their massively faster than light feats, and he tagged Dark. But given Barry's low showings, I would lean more toward Goku. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I think this was a fun topic, but Seth and his friend tackled it with very little nuance. I apologize for not going over the fight more, but my only real intention was to debunk all the misinformation. I might revisit the topic later, after I reread the New 52 Flash and maybe rewatch DBS, but for now I'm satisfied with the conclusion. Now, I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Time for some quick announcements. The podcast is still coming, but we're going to be doing it when we have a better microphone so you guys can actually hear us during the stream. As always, check the description box for links to other videos, sources, and calculations. Please try to look out for the Flash War discussion video and Goku and Superman vs. Ben 10. Remember to like, comment, favorite, share, and subscribe if you're new. Hit the notification bell so you're notified of a new video the moment it uploads. Be sure to follow us on our other social media platforms. This has been Tap108 of the Supreme Duo channel. Signing out. Peace.